Hello everyone, I'm Mike from the Self App, and thank you for listening to the Self App podcast. This is a show where we discuss all things good thoughts, good words, good deeds related, and interview people passionate about being their best self and who are helping others to be their best self too. Some of the segments include Coaching Clinic, where we talk to psychologists, motivational thinkers, and life coaches. Book Club, where we discuss and share reviews on our favourite books. Startup Spotlight, taking a pre-seed and more often than not non-techie view on starting a business and running a business. Health and Fitness Hustle, where we provide tips, tricks and training from experts. And eSoteric Edge, a look at hidden or secret philosophy and how it can help you be your best self. If you haven't already, please download the Self App, where we deliver you a collection of tools to help you be your best self, and 3% of all our profits are donated to charity. Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in today. Today it's my privilege and honour to introduce you to Raja Perry. Early on in Raja's life, he began developing an interest in esoteric issues and philosophies. Eventually he became interested in life after death, which sparked a journey into Buddhism, which then rabbit-holed him into Hinduism, resulting in a time spent living in an ashram. Fast forward a little bit, and a continent away, a sickness with his wife led to a trip from Puerto Rico to Los Angeles and consulting with both institutional medicine as well as alternative healing. That sparked a chance meeting with a Vedic astrologer. Raja's details were provided, a recording was made, and that recording made its way back to him in Puerto Rico, where upon listening to this recording, a moment of calling occurred and he knew he had to learn more about Vedic astrology. Raja pursued his own studies, and these led him eventually to get in contact with Dr. David Frawley. Dr. Frawley offered a course in Vedic astrology, which became the capstone to Raja's learning. And once completed, he was then set the task to go out and deliver readings to the people. Today, we're going to learn more about Raja and Vedic astrology, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be able to present this to you. So Raja, tell us and tell the audience a little bit more about you, your background, and about what Vedic astrology is as opposed to traditional Western astrology.
Okay, namaste. Thank you for having me, Mike. Where do we begin? I grew up in North America in the United States, and I suppose I was always a little bit sort of eccentric kind of a guy, a little bit different than a lot of the other, sort of kids in my neighborhood. But yeah, I eventually started having very interesting experiences, like very vivid dreams and whatnot, that sort of intimated to me that there was more to life than, the everyday sort of, making money, going to school, dealing with people. And I just started to wonder, well, what is life all about? And, I became fascinated with issues like life after death. All these things, as you pointed out, eventually led me to seeking out, the philosophy of Buddhism and Hinduism, which I've gotten really involved with. And as you said, I joined an ashram, lived in the ashram for many years, and sometime later, I became interested in the Vedic astrology. And once I, got into that, it was definitely a true calling that I had to pursue. Now, over the years, I have continued learning. I have met a few teachers along the way, and I'm currently studying with Pandit Sanjay Roth. I consider him my Jyotish guru, Jyotish meaning Vedic astrology. And so I continually upgrading my skills, I suppose you could say. And I am doing astrology readings part-time at the moment, but one of my goals for this year is to move into it full-time.
Fantastic. A wonderful aspiration. So tell us a little bit about what does Jyotish have a meaning, a deeper meaning, and what would you say is the key difference between a Vedic astrology reading and a Western astrology reading?
Okay, well, yes, Jyotish the word Jyotish comes from the Sanskrit Jyoti meaning light, and Isha means Lord or controller. Okay, so Jyotisha basically means like the science of light or light from God. Okay, so Jyotish is basically a system that is used to guide our path, to light our path in this human existence, in this what we call samsara, the cycle of birth and death, and to help us make progress towards, our higher consciousness and getting back to our real self. So Vedic astrology is like a tool for doing that, because Vedic astrology is based on the premise of the eternal nature of the soul and reincarnation. Okay, so we come into this life. It's sort of like a celestial university, this world that we live in. So we come here to learn lessons, right? And if we learn our lessons, then we get promoted to the next higher class. If we don't learn our lessons, then we have to keep repeating that class until we get it, right? So this is what human life is like. A lot of people don't really believe in things like reincarnation because, why can't we remember our past lives? But there's more than enough evidence to show that we indeed have had many lives, and we are learning different lessons as we go through. So Jyotish is or Vedic astrology is just a tool to help us accelerate the process by overcoming certain material attachments, ignorances, learning to move on our higher path to do the right work that we were meant to do, that will help us, ascend very quickly. So I suppose we could sort of encapsulate it like that.
That's a fantastic summary. So tell us a little bit about, I'm very fortunate. I'm going to share with my audience. About 10 years ago, I came across you when I was sharing some meals at a Hare Krishna temple, and one of the wonderful Hare Krishnas there suggested that as a part of my own development that I contact you and learn all about Jyotism and as he described it, the science of light, and what that could mean for me and my karma, and some of the constraints that my karma had, and tell us a little bit what is karma in the sense of the science of light, and what if you look at a reading, what could someone generally expect the reading to point to, good and bad, or blessings and limitations, and how do they play out in a Vedic astrology reading?
Okay, well, the Vedic chart, the Vedic horoscope, is basically a snapshot of the planetary positions at the time of our birth, the exact time we were born. Okay, so it's like a blueprint. Now, each of the planets, the signs, and the stars, and the houses of the zodiac, of the horoscope, I should say, they form a type of cosmic language. Okay, so once you understand the grammar, the verbs, the nouns, the syntax, all of this, then you can actually create, you can tell a story. So the Vedic horoscope is basically a story about the individual soul or consciousness, what they have created in the past, what they will experience in this life, and perhaps even show the best way forward so that we can accelerate our growth, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, so the horoscope basically shows the various manifestations of karma that we have. Now, karma is a Sanskrit word that refers to action. Okay, it just means action. Now, we know from Western physics that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Okay, what goes around comes around. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. Okay, so this understanding of creating our own reality is something that has been known and understood by the ancients for thousands of years. Even in the Western culture, as you sow, so shall you reap. That's in the Bible. So the Vedic horoscope basically is just showing what you have sown and how you will reap that in this life. Now, the different planets, the configurations of the planets will show some of our negative karmas. It will show our positive uplifting karmas, and it will show neutral karmas as well. Okay. So once we can see these things in the Vedic horoscope, it can be profoundly helpful for helping a person to get some insight into what their higher path is, their journey as a soul, the types of lessons that they need to deal with to accelerate their growth, all of these sorts of things. So yeah, and the horoscope is quite complex in many ways because we're talking about a person's entire life and how it relates to previous lives and possible future lives. So the horoscope is sort of like a bit of an onion. There's many different layers. You can peel those layers back. And I always tell my clients that don't think that, this is your first reading, but don't think that this is all there is to know. Because I could not possibly explain everything about who you are, what you've done, what you will do, all the little intricacies of the chart. I couldn't do that in one sitting. It's like if you go to a psychologist or, a psychiatrist. You don't expect that professional to resolve all of your issues in one sitting. You often have to go back repeated times. And so we gradually peel back the layers of the chart, and it's a wonderful thing because it really does help to get self-knowledge as the person. I work with my clients, and they apply my suggestions and whatnot based on their horoscope. It can be very helpful and profoundly liberating depending on the effort that's put into it.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that's we all carry in what it sounds like negative karma, or what I'm going to synthesize from what I'm hearing is perhaps some errors in past actions that we've made and things that we've not in creating our own world have not hit the mark. And we're here to try and recreate in a better way, a more evolved way, a higher way, and improve and create better and go along this path. How then, in a Vedic astrology, what remedies might you as a Vedic astrologer infer from some of those negative karmas? What are some of the things that Vedic astrology can do to help the aspirant or the person who's receiving a reading take away that will give them tools and methods to be able to transmute some of that past negative karma or past incorrect action and turn it into positive, fruitful action?
Mike, thank you so much for asking that question. That is an excellent question. Actually, that's one of the big differences, and we can talk more about this later. One of the big differences between Vedic astrology and more commonly known Western astrology is that although Western astrology can be very helpful for a person understanding their psychology and this sort of thing, Vedic astrology can do that, and it can go a step further and explain to you what you're likely to experience in this life. Okay? Not only that, it can go a step further and say, okay, look, you've got some really negative karmas related to the fourth house in your chart because of these negative planets influencing the fourth house. So that means that, you perhaps will struggle with emotional issues in your life. Perhaps you didn't have a good relationship with mother or your childhood, this sort of thing. The fourth house covers all these things. Now, if I know which planets are causing the problem, then we can recommend a remedy. Okay, now this is something that's unique to Vedic astrology. There are what we call astro remedies, which consist of different things like, for example, chanting of sacred sounds, mantra, use of special mystical diagrams, yantra, giving in charity to the proper recipients, okay? Fasting on certain days, because each of the days each of the 7 days of the week are ruled by a planet. That's where we get the names of the days of the week from. Sunday, Moon Day. Tuesday comes from one of the Greek gods. Okay, Wednesday from Woden, also another one of the gods. Thursday, the day of Thor, right? Freeze Day or Friday, which is another one of the gods. And then Saturn's Day. Saturn was also known as Kronos, which meant the the Lord of Time. So all of those names come from the actual planets. So if we know the planets that are causing problems in the chart, we can give remedies. I can recommend someone, for example, say to fast on a Saturday if Saturn is causing, restrictions, limitations, sorrow, because Saturn is actually a great teacher. Saturn is a great teacher. And if we pay attention to the lessons that that teacher is trying to teach us, then we make great progress. It's only when we ignore the lessons of the planets that we continue to suffer and to rotate in samsara.
That's fascinating. And it's, I want to talk a little bit more for my own curiosity about mantras and yantras. I mean, because charity and fasting in their own, I mean, there's studies, many studies in neuropsychology and neurology that talk about the benefits of giving, benefits of charity, and the health benefits of fasting anyway, and the impact on stem cells and stopping the body's natural digestion and how it can divert energy anyway. And those things are proven and wonderful things for a person to do. But mantras and yantras might be for someone who's a little bit skeptical and someone who's kind of like, what is all of this about? What can a chant or invoking sacred sounds do, and what can looking at sacred geometry do, and how do those have impacts on helping someone free up past perhaps negative action and move towards positive action? What are some of the ways mantras and yantras help?
Okay, well, let's take mantra. Okay, mantra comes from the two Sanskrit words, compound words, manas meaning mind, and prayate meaning to deliver or free. Okay, so mantra is basically sacred sounds that are, depicted in the Sanskrit language, which, by the way, Sanskrit was considered to be the best language for computer language because it is so consistent and it has so much depth of meaning. But these Sanskrit mantras, if repeated and meditated upon, will actually, they can actually reset the subconscious mind, okay? Because it's the subconscious mind that is dictating so many things, our feelings, how we are oriented in the world and whatnot. And beyond resetting the subconscious or subconscious thinking, also these mantras have the power to plant seeds, or what we call samskaras, into the consciousness that over time of chanting those mantras, they eventually fructify and our consciousness becomes freer, clarified, released from some of the old patterns that perhaps the mind was stuck in. Because we know that the mind, the world is in the mind, okay? If we can transcend the mind and bring our mind under control, then we can actually expand our awareness to perceive reality more as it is. Okay, so mantras are very, very powerful. And there's all types of mantras that are in use. Now, as far as yantras are concerned, yantras are geometric symbols, basically. All different types of yantras. And again, the yantra has an effect on the subconscious. So by meditating on a particular type of yantra, like, you actually visualize that mantra, not just with your eyes, but you take that internal also. And each of those symbols in the yantra will have a particular impact on the subconscious mind and also help you with your meditation. So the goal is that eventually through the meditation, you become one with the energy, with the subtle energies of that yantra, which will transform one's nature and one's consciousness.
So let me synthesize that in a way that someone like me who is not trained in what you're doing can understand it. Mm-hmm. And this is fascinating. This is really a key takeaway for me. The average person potentially has a subconscious mind controlling them, and that subconscious mind is effectively just through living ignorantly, you might say, or out of attunement with the higher purpose of a soul, is gathering a garden of weeds, overgrown with weeds, and perhaps things that are overgrown, and it's not a very clean place inside.